Good day to all. My name is Joshua Hammock with Wilson Aggregate Supply with the air transportation proposal for FY21. We have compared quite a few different modes of transportation over the past few weeks, and we always seem to go back to aircraft ownership. We have a few different talking points to go over in this presentation, and with each one comes research carried out by industry-leading aviation professionals. At the end, I hope to convince everyone of the overarching benefits of on-demand travel and why we should ditch the airlines. So let's get into it, and next slide. Hey, day again. So in this slide, this is the air transportation analysis and objectives of the proposal. In the past quarter, we have seen exponential growth, and with that growth comes demand to reach our far-flung clients. But we have to remember that just because we can take on more business does not mean we can provide the same professional service. And what I mean by that is that we cannot really readily reach new clients in a timely manner. The more clients we have equals a decrease in service, and less clients equals less profit. But where we and our clients can have the best of both worlds is by owning our own aircraft. So if we look at the slide here, we can see this pie chart for the benefits of on-demand travel. And what we see is the largest chunk is convenience. We can readily jump on an aircraft, but being mindful that we need to schedule this aircraft a few weeks in advance. We have the privacy of our own aircraft. It's going to save us time. We're going to get to the airports faster. We're going to be able to reach more airports. The flexibility of being able to hop on a flight at an hour's notice it speaks volumes to our business. So our proposal objectives are as follows. I have four of them. We're going to analyze the demand for on-demand travel using a city pair analysis. We're also going to compare and contrast features of corporate airframes against the market demand. 3, we're going to analyze relative value of each airframe using feedback from our key decision makers that we utilize through interviews. We're also going to compare distinct cost differences annually of each aircraft and their operation for company travel. Next slide, please. Here we have our city pair analysis and the cost and travel miles that we have accumulated commercially for our COO. So on-demand travel brings the ability to quickly fly whenever you need, which I previously mentioned. The COO last year traveled a total of 751.7 hours. But with the Afton purchase, that's going to bring that total to 876.5 hours. So the need for on-demand travel is critical to the business growth, and aircraft ownership it's going to bring flexibility for the ability for more client-facing time. That's also going to bring in more business, access to more airports, regional airports, not only commercial operated ones, better quality of life for our employees. So we're going to have a better employee relationship, which in turn is going to give us a better product. Cost and travel miles. The travel miles for the COO reached an astonishing 30,867, which cost us $70,577 last year. That's what we flew commercially. So with an on-demand model, that's going to decrease exponentially to 877 hours. That's a cut down to 188 hours, saving 688 hours total. That speaks volumes. Even though the upfront cost is going to be a little bit more than the commercial route, our savings in the long run are going to there's going to be more pros and cons in our savings in the long run. If you look at the bottom, you can see a graphic that I created showing the COO travel miles, 30,867.8 last year. The money spent was 70,577. And company travel miles in all was 113,977 for all employees. So we can cut that down exponentially with an on-demand travel model. Next slide, please. So this is our market analysis slide. We're comparing 4 different airframes that we have done market research on, and we think we're going to get the best bang for our buck with these 4 airframes. We have two jets, turbine engine jets, and then we have 2 turbo propeller driven aircrafts as well. So the 4 we have are the King Air 250, the Piper M600, the Gulfstream, and the Cessna CJ1. That's a Citation. The first 2 are the turboprop, and the last 2 are the jets. So these are corporate airframes under consideration, and we're just to get an insight of the capabilities of each option. So each one of these are more than capable of seating 4 plus people. Of course, the 4-seaters are going to be a little bit less than the 14-seaters, but that just comes with the territory. So let's break it down a little bit. We have different prices for the airframes. The King Air 250 and the Piper M600 are both brand new. The King Air is coming in at 6.2 million. The Piper's coming in close to 3 million. The 2 jets are the used options. We have a 92 Gulfstream and a 2005 Citation CJ1. The Citation CJ1 is going to be 1.9 million. The Gulfstream is 3.5. The Citation is going to be the cheaper of all the options, and it is the second fastest. So that's something to consider. Another thing to consider is each aircraft, we broke it down by a 300 nautical mile trip and how fast it can get you there. The King Air being the newer the King Air and the M600 being the newer ones can travel 300 nautical miles in an hour and then an hour and 22 minutes. But when we look at the CJ1, it can actually get there in 54 minutes, and the Gulfstream can get there in 50 minutes. So the Gulfstream's only 4 minutes less, and it's exponentially more than the Cessna. So this is kind of giving us a good analysis of what the market demand for each of these aircrafts are, and what we can afford, and what's going to be the better option for us, sir. Next slide, please. Hey, so this is our selection matrix slide. In this particular slide, I'm going to try to break this down for you guys. This is a corporate airframe relative value. So we came up with a few different categories and subcategories that we implemented from the interviews that we had with our key decision makers and our C-level executives to what they thought these particular corporate airframes should bring to the table, and what would be the most important on a weight value of a 1 to 4, 1 being the least and 4 being the greatest. So in this section, we're going to compare the value of each one as it relates to the needs of the decision makers, like I said prior. Each category and subcategory hold a particular weight of importance or weight factor. When all values are calculated, we're left with a factor percentage for that category. So the particular categories that we chose to harp on are the purchase price, the age of the aircraft, the value factor, the cabin volume, which is the seating, wing loading, which is going to be your ride or your suspension in a vehicle, so to speak, payload with max fuel, how much weight you can have with full fuel on board, range with max payload, max weight, and how far you can get, and direct operating cost per hour for a 300 nautical mile trip, and as well as maintenance cost per hour. So the ones that we picked the highest value factor on, of course, are going to be the price. Age is not that much of a factor because aircrafts are much more reliable than an automobile would be. And the second and third one would be direct operating costs for 300 nautical mile mission, and a maintenance cost per hour. So it all boils down to the money. It goes back to the money. We want to make sure we're getting the best value for our profit shares. So the purpose price, direct operating costs, and maintenance cost per hour all receive value factors of 4, and those are the ones that we're going to focus on in this slide. So I got a few bullet points to the bottom right where it shows the CJ1, the Citation, scores the highest with a value of 36 in the purchase price category because it is the fastest, it is the second fastest, and it is also the cheapest of all 4 options. The Piper M600 scores the highest in the direct operating costs with $511, but that's because it's a brand new aircraft, less maintenance required, and things of that nature. But the M600 also outscores the other airframes in maintenance cost per hour. That's also due to it being a new airframe again. The Gulfstream scores the highest with a 24 cabin volume due to the fact that it can hold 14 passengers. That's astonishing. That's definitely a contender, and we have a lot more to consider to figure out which aircraft is going to best suit our needs. Next slide, please, guys. Hey, so it all goes back to the money, right? Cost of operation is what we're going over in this slide. We have fixed costs, we have variable costs. What those two entail, fixed cost is going to be crew salary, training, hangar rentals, insurance, things of that nature. Variable costs are always going to change and fluctuating. Fuel, maintenance, landing fees. Depending on where you land, different airports, they cost more. So aircraft operational cost of aircraft ownership, I believe, is well warranted, and the benefits far outweigh the cons. And they can be much less than using a charter or commercial service for that same airframe. So I have the 4 aircrafts in these columns that we are considering for purchase, and they also have a charter option as well for one of the aircrafts that I am more focusing on. So if you look, the 2005 CJ1, the fixed cost for us to own is 240 and a half K a year. Variable cost per hour is 1,379. Utilization hours are 360, and that's also going to be the same for chartering it. We're going to be in the air 360 hours, but the yearly cost to own a 2005 Cessna CJ1 is $878,520. As opposed to renting one, it'll be $1 million plus. So we're saving tons of money by owning it in the long run. Also, we can take this baby out anytime we need. Cost per hour is going to be less owning it as well. Block speeds are the same. It's something to note that the block speed of each aircraft definitely has a significant effect on the utilization hours, depending on how fast or how slow it is. The higher the speed, the less hours flown, which in turn greatly decreases maintenance costs. So this is definitely something to consider. This is probably the most important thing to consider when purchasing an aircraft. Which one are we going to get the best bang for our buck? So next slide. So when and if we do purchase an aircraft for Wilson Aggregate, there's going to have to be some operating structure, when someone can use the aircraft, who has the final say, how many levels of approval does it need to go through in order to get the wheels up and off the ground. So we're going to go over in-house flight departments and outside management companies. I'm leaning more towards in-house flight department. That means that we would manage all operational values of the aircraft. That's from movement, that's pilot, that's training, that's everything that goes into this. So there's 2 different options: in-house flight department and outside management companies. The in-house flight department, there's pros and cons. You have direct internal control. That's definitely a benefit. Directly responsible for all operations. That can go both ways. And you have more privacy. You don't need another entity, third party, looking into your business, especially when you want to keep some of your assets secret. Outside management companies, definitely a benefit. It's quicker startup. They know what they're doing. They've been doing this for years. This is their bread and butter. There's more people involved, and it's going to minimize your privacy, like I said before. And it's also overall operating costs can be lower because they bring everything to the table that you would need to get this up and running. So definitely something to consider. If you look at the flight operational organizational chart, the COO has the last say of aircraft movement. Chief Flight Operations Officer and Flight Department Manager all speak to the Chief Operations Officer. They answer to him or her. Then we have maintenance, training, support, flight crew, and operations engineering. So a couple things to note, that all non-C-level executives and all non-mandatory travel must go to the Chief Flight Operations Officer and Flight Department's Manager before being approved by the COO. That's without questions asked. And additionally, aircraft operations for business purposes only. There will be no personal trips or anyone trying to utilize this aircraft if it's not intended for business purposes. So that concludes the proposal. I hope I've given everyone something to take home and consider, and I really look forward to the answer in this. In the next slide, we're going to go over the references for this proposal. Thank you. Have a great day.